Hello, beautiful beings. Welcome to Let's Create the Revolution Together. My name is Marigol, and I'm your host on this human journey that we're all here to experience. I've created this podcast because I wanted to show the world how vibrant and fulfilling life can actually be when we're creating our reality from alignment. Want to know how to get there? Well, you just got to stay tuned because every Wednesday we're going to meet new people that are shifting their reality to create a ripple effect of transformation. We're all here to evolve, and I think that every experience we encounter is an opportunity to grow. That's why I specialize in helping people bringing more awareness into their lives so they can actually transform their experience, small and or big, into learnings. So I say, let's create that revolution together, one experience at a time. Hello, beautiful beings. Today on Let's Create the Revolution Together, we're having a talk with Claudia Saavedra. Her story is not the usual one, which is always fun to hear. So she used to be the starving actor, always against the grain. And then at one point, she actually realized that she was a rebel without a cause and that she actually needed to redefine her life. Um, so she and I have so much in common. And when we first met, it was kind of weird because it was like talking with ourselves, because we're used to that story where people are actually coming from the corporate world after a spiritual awakening and then they start to appear in a different way, right? But this wasn't our case. So we were always out of that system, even when we were in that system. So we were both the struggling artist, the rebel, screaming on every roof how different we were, how misunderstood we were, and we were. And we're gonna talk about that for sure. But like able to just point how everything is wrong. So we have this capacity, which is not always welcome. Anyway, we're going to deep dive into all of those subjects. Claudia is now a content creator and a writer. You can check her out on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, but on Instagram is where she is posting every day. So you can follow her there at Claudia with 2 I underscore Saavedra. And all of her links are, of course, listed in the description down below. So you can just go ahead and click on those if you're interested about what she has to say. So I'm very, very excited to tell her story, but also to have this conversation because we need to see all angle of that new reality that we're creating. So I'm gonna invite you to grab something to drink and make yourself comfortable, so we can create that revolution with Claudia Saavedra. Hey, Claudia.
Hello.
I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah, I'm really
I,
excited for this.
I think I did the intro like 3 times because I was so excited that I was like talking too much. So it's like,
Yeah.
just slow down. We're gonna get to that in the podcast.
I know it's just like when there's just so much to talk about though, and then you're just I'm the same. I just start talking really fast, and I'm like, I've got to get it out. I'm so excited.
All right. So yeah, let's talk about like what I was talking to in the intro, like doing stuff outside the mainstream box. Like what kind of stuff were you doing outside of that box?
So my story is very much like I was the struggling artist. I just lived in. I guess my mindset was, which is why I realized recently that it wasn't very smart. That it was like I was always like, I'm so against money and I am so against the matrix and I'm so against everything. I'm gonna follow my dreams and just have no money, but one day everything's going to be fine and I'll prove everyone wrong, everyone else is stupid. And then so for me it was very much like um I read all like the success stories, like I said, the struggling actor, and I didn't realize until like last year I think that's kind of the reality that I was living and that I wanted and that I accepted. So
Hmm.
it was a big slap in the face when I realized that I had created that. And it wasn't actually very smart. It's like, you don't need to hate money. Okay, money is not the problem here. You know, being comfortable is not the problem here. You don't have to suffer, you know. So just the way that I did it was just, yeah, literally just kind of like wanting to be an actor, an actress, but not really doing anything about it because I was just so stuck on the fighting and so stuck on just going against the grain for absolutely no reason, you know? So not really doing anything, to be honest, just not going in any other direction, just being like, I'm stubborn for no reason, you know? So so that's it. It's like I wasn't really doing anything. It was like I'll go to an audition like every once in a while, but I'm the actor.
Oh my God, you don't even have the slightest idea of how much I relate to that. Like I used to wanted to be a writer, and I was
Yeah,
always writing stuff, but like very privately, but
yeah,
like I was outing myself as a writer, but I wasn't like I was just barely journaling every day.
yeah,
You know, and the way I was um against the grain was a little bit like you said, you know, like always pointing out how people are doing it wrong without doing it right myself, you know.
yeah,
And that fight, that constant fighting, you know, it gets you nowhere. And that's how like you described it as being a rebel without a cause. And I
yeah,
felt like that so much, you know. It was just like no one wanted to be around me because I
yeah.
was always in that fight mode.
Hmm.
So I ended up without any friends in life, you know, and without any real project until this podcast came to life.
Yeah. I think the no friends thing is really interesting because when I was like at the beginning, I guess, of my spiritual awakening, it was sort of like you have this stage where you're kind of like, well, you know, I'm not an enlightened yogi, but also, you know, none of you understand me. So it's kind of like everything around you as well just kind of like starts to like crumble because you're like, you know, I literally for the past, I said this to you last time, for the past like couple of years literally just hated everybody. I was just angry all the time. Like
Mm.
I was only happy at home on my own without speaking to anybody. And so then that's the thing. It's like nobody wants to be around that because every time someone says something, I'm just like, here's my opinion. You know? So it's like nobody wants to be told off all the time, you know?
There's something like for me, and you can speak about that maybe for
Mm-hmm.
yourself, but I know that for me, when I see something that is wrong in quote, like because
Mm-hmm.
right now I don't believe there's something wrong or right, but there's always like some upgrade that we can do to our everyday life. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I see someone and I see where is the struggle, because I'm very familiar with struggle, um there's like this moment where I know that what I'm seeing is right.
Mm-hmm.
Before I used to speak it very loudly.
Yeah.
And right now I'm not doing that. I'm just waiting for people to be like, hey, do you have a thought? Do you have like, can you can you give me your 2 cents about that, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think it's tricky for people like us, and I even get this with my own posts at the moment, that it's like um and I'm working on this, but it's like it's the way that maybe I'm somebody, for example, I'm somebody that cares a lot, like a lot, and I'll do anything for my friends and just causes that I care about, right? The way that I sometimes act, you wouldn't know that, right? Because I'm probably not the most, you know, I'm not the most emotional person, for example. So it's like for me, it was the same. It was kind of like I'd be like, well, I want to help you, but it's kind of like the way that I would go about it, and people would be like, I don't think you do, and I'm like, no, I do want to help you because I'm angry about it. It's like, and now I'm the same. That I'm just kind of like, okay, what is like a best way to say this, you know, or what is the best way to ask this, you know? So it's really about taking a step back, but obviously the first thing is like we said, you have to first realize what you're doing. um So for us, it's like realize that you're just actually you're not helping anybody and you're not helping yourself by being this way. And obviously, it's not that you're not gonna change who you are, but it's there are ways, yeah, to speak to people. There are ways to help people. It's a learning curve, like everything, isn't it?
Yes, yes, definitely. Because you know that what you're seeing is right.
Mm-hmm.
You know that, but sometimes the people in front of me are not there at the moment. Like you can see that something is wrong, in
Mm-hmm.
quote, something
Mm-hmm.
is there to up level and they're not really there yet. And that's what used to frustrate me a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
Like get there, like
Yeah.
I see you, like this is happening. You're not eating the right stuff for you, or you're not like you're watching too much TV, or you're not like doing that, or you're not doing
uh,
that, and then this is the result. And then people are
yeah.
like overwhelmed with all that
Yeah.
I was telling them. And since,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, probably like since the pandemic, I don't know, like I
Mm-hmm.
got like super isolated, and it gave me time to think about like how I was like showing up in the world. And I
Yeah.
was realizing that people are not having fun with me. They're not. They're not calling me. They're not like
Yeah. I think that's the worst thing what you just said there about people. And first of all, like I completely like resonate this thing. I'm still a little bit like this now. But then like I say, I can see it now and take a step back. But I'm exactly the same because like people are talking to me like, speaking about the matrix, like, oh, I hate my job, I hate my job, I hate my job. And I'm just like, ah, just leave. But I'm like, okay, what do we do? What can we do? Because I understand that not everybody thinks like me. But this is the thing that you said about not being fun. I think that for me was something that, I guess hurt. That it's like what I realize I'm super like super silly. Like, but I think you have to know me. And I think that what you said then is like when people just kind of perceive you as like serious and angry and stuff, and it's like, no, 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 no. Like it's like I'm not like that. I'm just, and so that really I was kind of like, and it's that thing about like finding your inner child again, and just like because that
yes,
that was really difficult. I think for me, what you said about reflecting and being how you're showing up in the world, and then being like, it's definitely good, like the inner child thing, that it's like, okay, let me play more, let me enjoy things more, let me. And do you remember when I said this thing to you when I was on the bus, and I don't know why, like, but it's just these moments that you have where something just shifts and you're like, oh, okay, it is working, the inner work is working. There's a reason I've been crying for 7 months, it's great. um but it was like I just remember looking around, and I was like, I don't know, it's weird to explain, but I saw people differently. I didn't see people as my enemies anymore. I was like, everyone is doing their best, and it doesn't matter if someone tells you this. It's like you have to understand this. Because I remember being in therapy as well, and just talking about this, just being angry at the world, and the therapist just being like, but you don't understand what kind of a day this person's had. And I was like, well, I don't really care, you know because if I can do it, everybody should do it. And then actually now I just, but it's the truth, right? It's really freeing to talk about this, because I think sometimes when you say stuff, people are just like shocked, and it's like, well, actually,
yeah,
it's reality, and it's like we should talk about how we feel more, whether it's like a good feeling or a bad feeling. It's like, I think this is one of the issues with the world, is that no one's honest enough. um
yes.
and so, but yeah, I just remember just kind of looking around and being like, everybody's just the same as me, and I'm not better than anyone. um and I was like, oh, okay, this is weird, right? I got off my throne, took my crown off.
Oh my God, I remember those moments. I had like
Yeah,
several of those moments where I'm actually realizing that I'm not better than anyone. Like,
yeah.
this is everyone is on their path. And as you were talking, I don't know, I had like this insight of like, when you're choosing anger, because it's the easy road,
Yeah,
right? And so when
yeah.
we see people being in their easy road, it reflects back on us that we're taking one easy road as well.
Mhm.
even though we're not taking the same road. It's not like because they're doing A that we have to do A to be triggered about that. But like seeing them taking the easy way out and like, let's say, staying in their job because that's what's comfortable for them. Like I remember that for me, staying in that anger was more comfortable for
Right.
me than opening up and
Right.
feeling all of that empathy
Yeah.
and connecting with all of those being, and then being so freaking overwhelmed with understanding everyone because I
Mm-hmm.
do. And I'm going through that right now of like every time that I'm with someone, whether it's on this podcast or at the grocery store, I can just like feel this empathy that is like just raining on me. And like, I understand you. I know
Yeah.
what you're going through. I know it's not easy. And like, I want to be there for them, in a
Mm-hmm.
way that is so overwhelming that when I get back to where I was before, choosing anger and like being like, I know what you're doing wrong and this is wrong and you're gonna like hit the wall and like it was the easiest way because I was cutting myself off of feeling all of that overwhelming
Mm-hmm.
empathy. So I don't know if you've been through something like that, but for me.
Yeah. So absolutely. So two things there. So that the first thing is exactly what you said. It's when you, again, what we were saying, that it's like it's double-sided and it's complete, like it's like what are we doing? And this is the whole point of this episode, right? That it's like judging everybody else but staying in your own comfort, which is anger, but then thinking that it's such a paradox, but then thinking it's like, I'm angry at you because you're not doing the thing that I think you should do, but I'm not doing what I should do either. Do you know what I mean? And then it's when you realize that you describe me, for me, it was comfortable to be angry, right? It was like, this is what I do because exactly that. And this is what I'm, to answer your question, yes, exactly the same. All I ever had was of people being too sensitive, too giving, like
Mhm.
too much. And then I was always like, again, I'm the opposite. Like I don't, and luckily for me, I found really good friends like that were the complete opposite to me, that helped me
Mhm.
with this, right? Because if it wasn't for them, I probably would have stayed angry forever, because my mum is angry, because her parents were angry, because everyone's just angry in the family. That's just how you deal with things, right? So then it made me not want to have children, for example, because I was
Mm.
like, well, I don't want to carry this on. Like, do you know what I mean? And now I'm like,
Yes.
maybe one day I could have children, but I'm just not the sort of person that would do that, because it's like, I'm not going to carry this on forever. So in a sense it was good. I love my mum, like she brought me up on her own, but in a sense it was really good to move away, because it broadened my horizons. And in relationships, again, like I've had like boyfriends that I've had like crazy fights with, and then they would be like, you don't act like this, right? And I'd be like, what do you mean? And this is how we do it. And it's like, no. And I was like, oh, interesting. But it's like, it's all, right? And that was the thing, again, like I just never used to understand other people that weren't like me, and now I'm like, it's all they know, right? And that's how you help people. You don't help people by shouting at them. You help people by being like, hey, this is how you see things. Here's another way you could maybe try, instead of being
Mhm.
like, dismissive, this is wrong. Um but but yeah, so that's something I'm working on at the moment. Like the last year for me has been like the most intense year of my life in terms of everything. And I feel like I'm a complete different person, because I kid you not, like I mean, I've been crying for like 4 years now, but like not in a bad way. Like, because it's just stuff that was just buried, right? And now I welcome crying, because I'm like, okay, well, I need to cry clearly. Do you know what I mean? It's like, whatever,
Yeah.
it's normal. And the
Yeah.
feeling things, I think I mentioned this to you before. It was like, I've had relationships, I never really connected with anyone until recently, because I was doing that I was like completely shut off. And, you know, I didn't allow anything in. And then at some point I was like, do you know what? I do have emotions. I am sensitive. I, again, because I'm not an overly emotional person, doesn't mean I don't have emotions. But for me,
Mm.
I proudly was like, I don't have any emotions. What's wrong with that? Like literally believing that. And people will be like, I don't know if that's true. And I'd be like, what do you mean? Why are you crying? I have no emotions. Like I'm a robot. It's completely normal. And then it hit me in the face and it was like crying for 4 years. And it was like, oh, I see.
That's amazing. I love how you were talking about the transgenerational of like your mother being
Yeah.
like that and you not wanting to pass that on. And it's
Yeah.
so funny because I was exactly the same. And I was
Right.
like, there's no way in hell that I'm ever gonna have children in my freaking life. Since I was like 12, I was like, hell no. This is not gonna happen. Like this is so fucked up. Like I'm not even gonna try. I'm not gonna dream
Right.
about the Prince Charming. I'm not gonna try to imagine myself in that white wedding gown and like walking down the aisle and having like this magnificent man where I which whom I'm gonna have like kids and stuff like that. I was like so bitter, already
Mm.
at a very early
Yeah.
age. And then when I was in California, I got pregnant and my intuition was strongly advising me to keep that baby. And I was like,
Right.
what the fuck? Like, this is crazy. Like, you want me to keep that baby? Like, this is weird. Like, I'm not someone that should have baby. And
Yeah.
then like I got like a lot of like meditation and like until that point in that first trimester where I've realized that I really wanted to keep that baby and I wanted to follow my intuition, blindly. I
Yeah.
was living in my car, I wasn't in my country, I had nowhere to go back to. Like there were nothing even near telling me that this I will be safe, right? There was nothing that was telling me that I was going to be safe with having this baby. But still my intuition was strongly advising me to do that. And by telling yes to that, saying yes to having this baby, the anger actually shifted
Right.
because I was growing this sweet little cute baby in my freaking
Mhm.
belly. And every day I was seeing her growing, and I was like just amazed at what my body was doing and
Mm.
connecting with that being. And it got me in touch with love, sympathy, empathy, connection. And the anger bit was like so far, you know? And
Mhm.
so it was just like it's like 12 years later right now,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
still that anger was still there, like but for the whole moment where I was actually pregnant and those moments where I was by myself with my baby because I was raising her by myself, like
Mhm.
this amount of love, it was the first time in my life that I could touch that I could experience that
Mhm.
it was just so special and like unknown. And I wasn't like, my mind was blown every day about the
Yeah.
amount of love that I could feel for this being.
Yeah. That's like, first of all, like that is such an amazing story, and I completely get that. Um, but I think, yeah, I really like that. When I'm sure we've all had this experience when you're like everything, your mind is just going, this is the worst idea you could ever have, and your intuition, like those moments where your intuition is like, we're good, and you're like, I'm gonna listen to you. You better not let me down, because and so, and it's great because like it's like things always turn out okay when we listen to our intuition, and it's like it's really good to hear these stories as well, because it's like, I know this, again, logically, I'm always like, trust your intuition. And every time I do, it's fine, right? But every time
Yeah.
I act out of fear, it's not fine. And it's like, I know this, but sometimes it's just, it's like, no, this is not logical. But a child, right? So I haven't had any children, but I always say this, like, children and animals, like, they are like the purest form of love, right? There's nothing else, right? It's
Yes.
unconditional love. And it's it's such a beautiful story, because it's like it was meant to be. Like, you didn't want it to happen, and it was like, no, this is gonna help you, and this is meant to be, this is meant to happen, and you trusted that. um but it's like, because I've worked as a nanny before, and I think just children, just babies, it's just like, I just started crying one time. Like, I'd put the baby to sleep, and I just started crying, because I was like, for no but it's just like, it's just such a pure, like,
Yeah.
being. And it's just like, it's this pure love, and just, I don't know, it's something. And obviously you can describe this better than me, because it's your baby, and you're a mother. But it's just like, um it was like, when I moved here, when I was like, it's not this to my cats, don't worry. But but it's like, they, it's like with animals, you can like push them away as much as you want, but they'll always come back, they'll always love you. And it's like, it's just unconditional love. That it's like, I think when you're angry, I always say you should spend time around children and around animals and in nature.
Hmm.
um because like, it just puts, like, gives you a different perspective on things. But if you spend time around adults and like the real world, I suppose, then it just makes you more angry.
Yeah.
um but that's amazing, because then after that you had like more children, right? So
Yeah.
you were like, bring them.
Yeah, it was so funny actually. I used to work with kids because exactly of what you said. It was like I was studying in special education, and like I've seen like everybody in my class, they wanted to work with adult, and I was like, why? They're so screwed up. Like you cannot
Yeah.
help them. They're finished. It's done.
Oh my god.
Right? They're
Yeah.
already conditioned. Let's work with kids
Yeah.
instead, right? And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to work with kids.
Yeah. Yeah. This is so funny. I'm telling you that, like, we're connected somehow. Like, I I'm someone who's like studied many things and many things. One of the things I'm still studying now part-time, that I studied though, was psychology. Because it's one of the things, I also want to do. I'm very interested. I said this from the beginning. I was like, I don't want to be like a adult psychologist. I was like, they're done. Like, oh, you can't help them. I was like, I want to help children, before this happens. I was like, I want to help the children, I like children. They can be helped still. They listen, they'll take my advice. Adults resist. Adults just resist. So I was like, exactly the same thing. I was like, why does anybody want to work with adults? Um, it's so funny. I've got my mum as a prime example, like, she's had so much therapy. She's seen everyone. She's still like resisting. She's like, there's nothing wrong. And I'm like, mother, like, let me help you. And she's like, no, but children listen.
Yes, my father is the same, and I've been fighting with him like
Yeah,
over and over again. Like, you gotta stop smoking. You gotta stop listening to the freaking news all day. Like, it's not helping you. Your anxiety, it
yeah,
comes from you smoking,
yeah,
taking too much coffee, listening to the news all day. Like those three things, just put them in the garbage and move to somewhere else. You know,
yeah,
and it was part of like that bitterness of like
yeah,
seeing adult in my life and my
yeah,
family being like stuck in their own ways
yeah.
and not wanting to move from there. And
Mm-hmm,
I was like, shit, what's going on? And then by me doing this podcast,
mm-hmm,
like my mind is opening up to something else because I've met with a lot of older people, and their testimonial on the way their life is transforming right now, it's out of here. And I'm like, all right, well, maybe it's time for me to move away from that thinking of like,
mm-hmm,
because when you're thinking that adult are finished, you're an adult. Like, are
mm-hmm.
you finished? And it's like,
Yeah,
I was like, shit, I don't want to be finished. The more
yeah,
I'm up
yeah,
to 40 now. Like, I'm in, like, I remember being 20 and looking at those 40 people and saying, there's like it's done. And I'm
Yeah.
40 right now, and I'm like, I'm changing every day, I'm evolving every day, I'm not done one bit.
Yeah.
Way far than,
Yeah.
like, of course I'm not done. And so that's a mindset that I needed to transform as well,
Hmm.
because I was stuck in thinking that adults were so conditioned.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, and I think so. I've had a similar story with my mum, but so then
Hmm.
I think from what you've said, I think it works both ways, because I always think everything stems from childhood. That if you can't process things when you're a child, then you carry them into adulthood. But then it's like at the same time, it helps you to see like someone close to you doing that, like when you actually become aware of this, and then you're like, oh, actually I don't want to be set in my ways, I don't want, because like I said, I growing up I was always like, I'm never going to be angry like my mum, and then I became angry like her, reacting to everything with anger, and it's just like, and now when I'm around it, like I don't, it doesn't affect me anymore like I used to, because then I went through that phase where you're like, everything that they do annoys you because you're like, why are you doing this? But then now I'm like, I'm like, okay, this is just how you react. But it's like everything is a struggle, everything. And I think I had the similar thing that I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be.
Hmm.
I've had this conversation with her actually, because I was trying to explain to her this, because my mum says, these are her own words. She's like, I'm just someone who stresses a lot, and I
Hmm.
said to her, I was like, okay, and people hate to hear this. I've got a few videos about this. It's like, you're choosing to stress. What do you mean I'm choosing to stress? I'm not choosing to stress. What do you mean I'm choosing to stress? And it's like, not stress. Oh, you whatever. You don't know. You just you with your old meditations and all this. Oh, just don't stress. Okay, I'll just stop stressing. And I was like, literally, just do that, because I'm the same. Like I used to stress about everything, and then I had this realization. Like I said, I've made a video about this where it was like, it doesn't matter if you stress about things or not. It literally makes no difference. All that it does is, it has an impact on you. You know,
Hmm.
it's not going to control anything that's happening. You really worrying about something is not going to change it, right? Whatever's
Hmm.
going to happen is going to happen. It's just about how you deal with it. And I'm not saying again, that I sometimes, like I said, I don't get scared or I don't stress or whatever. But then it's about, again, being aware and taking a step back and being like, actually, this is not how like you were saying, this is not how I want to show up in the world. This is not how I want to react to the situation, right?
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
that it's not going to do anything,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So it helps. It helps to have parents like that. Maybe,
Yeah. Right.
yeah,
Agree.
we didn't get it
Yeah.
before. I wanted to ask you a question as well, actually,
Yeah. Go ahead.
because you mentioned about, so these are the reasons why your dad is stressed, right? Because this is something I'm always kind of on the fence about, the whole like the watching news thing, and like and things like that, all these external things. So I stopped doing that like a long time ago. But just like with everything, I'm just always like, I always say this. I said this today actually. I was like, I live under my rock, and I like it. I like it under my rock. It's nice there. um, but then sometimes what tends to happen is if you're like in a social situation or whatever, then everyone's like, oh, did you hear about this thing? And then I'm just like, no. Then it's like, you didn't hear about this thing, and it's like, and it's like, what do you think about this? Do you think it's good to keep up kind of, or do you think it is good to cut everything out?
Well, for me, that's so, like, I used to study in journalism, all
Right,
right? So I've seen like what's going on behind the scene.
right.
And after spending 2 3 years in that realm,
Mm-hmm.
it was clear for me after like analyzing all those newspapers and like watching the news over and over again and understanding how they edit the thing so it's gonna like show
Right.
something like precise, and I'm not saying that people that are living this life or that are working for
Yeah.
those companies are evil or they're not
Yeah.
doing the right job. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But for me, it felt very misaligned and far from the truth.
The other and this actually, it's funny because it's kind of like it, it's like I'm still kind of in between, you know, that again, it's like I don't, like I said, I'm not in this community where it's like, you know, none of us watch the news, for example, and we just, I don't know, we all we do is pick apples. I don't know, just like whatever people do. I don't know what they do. The enlightened masters. I don't know how they spend their days, you know. Um, but then so it's kind of like I feel like I'm still somewhere in between, you know. It's kind of, and like you said, like it's all a journey and everyone's at different stages, but it's like I think this is why the internet is so important nowadays, actually, because I used to hate social media. And
Mm,
actually it was through like this course that I just was one of the things that kind of opened my heart to things, that I was like, I used to post in the Facebook group all the time, and I was like, people are so nice and supportive, like why am I being such a dick to everyone? Like
yes.
everyone actually is really nice to you, like being, and then it's like made me be really supportive to people, because I was like, nobody hates you, don't hate anybody, you
Yeah.
know. um but it's really weird, this whole, I find this whole like spiritual journey very weird, because it's this kind of thing that you're like, you understand everything, you're aware of everything, but then it's kind of like, interesting, you know, like, because we're
Mm-mm-mm.
doing similar things, like I've interviewed some people and I love hearing about people's stories, and then I'm like, I'm kind of like on my own journey, but you know, I think I'm past, you know, I say this, I was going to say I'm past all the suffering, which I know is, it's not like that. There's going to be more. I literally made a video about this yesterday, being like, stuff's always going to come up. It's always going to happen. You've got to accept it. Um, but I think, you know, I don't know, actually. I'm like, I'm past the worst. I'm not going to say anything. I feel like the universe is like, oh yeah. um no, but yeah, what do you think about that? Like, what are your surroundings at the moment?
um, like after, well, while the pandemic was happening, we were in the city,
Yeah.
and my husband was like, let's move because they're going to close everything down. And so we moved from a place, it was very busy, it was like a city. So there were
Mm-hmm.
like buses and like coffee shops, and like
Yeah.
there were life, around.
Yeah.
And then we went into this small village where
Mm-hmm.
people were like very cool, very nice, very like local shops, and like people meditating in the park, that kind of place, like that actually happened to exist. And
What?
it wasn't everybody that were doing that, but there were like a large part of the population where I was living that were
Mm-hmm.
doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was very cool, but it was very expensive to live there.
Right.
And so we didn't have quite the money to stay there, so we decided to move. And so when we moved, we actually bought a place in the forest, in like
Mm.
deep 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 in the forest, like where no one's around, like you
Mm-hmm.
don't see anyone unless you are out of where you live,
Yeah.
except for like sometimes like deer and like animals, like,
Yeah.
but human beings, they weren't like really there, right? So, and we were living in yurts, and so we were really
Oh
close to
yeah.
nature. And so that moment, we were really like close up, and the world around us like basically didn't
Yeah.
exist. And
Mm-hmm.
so, well, we have three kids and they got bored. They were like,
Yeah.
come on, like parents, let's go now. This is this
You're
is
like,
like
meditating, and they're like, hello.
that's where they got like really into gaming, because they needed to have like
Yeah.
stimulation. And like, so anyway, that's a whole other story. But now we moved again. This is one of our pattern, to be moving all the
Yeah,
time.
me
And
too.
so we're in a little town where it's all about Christianity. So it's very different from everywhere I've been so far.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like people, when they talk to you, like one of the first questions they will ask you is like, what church do you go to? And it's like, Well, none. It's a whole other game right now, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So,
Interesting.
yeah, so it's cool because I've always been super interested in religion. And so I've met with all kinds of people because where I used to live, they were just Catholic. So
Mm-hmm.
they were nothing else. But here you got like the Mormons and Jehovah's and the Baptized, and like there are all kinds of strain of Christianity.
What is
And
this
so
place?
so like you got like all kinds of churches here. It's like it's crazy. You
Wow.
got a church every street almost. And so people are very much into religion, and so it's interesting. I like meeting with those people to talk about that and
Mm-hmm.
expand my own mind, because deep down I know that we're all the same. And so
Yeah.
you want to believe in Jesus, I'm all for it. Let's talk, let's open a dialogue together. Like, so it doesn't really matter where you are.
Yeah.
It's always like not a test, yeah, maybe a test or like an experience. I like to just experience different thing and
Mm-hmm.
test my ability to still be in that
Mm-hmm.
empathy and that caring and seeing that we're all the same and we're all going through stuff. I just wanted to see this world being more open,
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
caring. Like, let's understand each other. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter where you're coming from. You
Yeah.
like, it really doesn't. Like,
Yeah.
if we can just open our heart and see the journey that
Mm-hmm.
people are going through,
Yeah.
like it would be so much easier.
Yeah. Yeah. I first of all, I think it's great what you're doing, because I
Thank you.
think, again, through all the anger that I've had, that you've had, all we really want is to make the world a better place. It's just like I said, it's, let's call it passion, instead of
Yeah.
anger. But it's like,
Yes.
the way that I grew up. I've always been the same ever since I was a child. I'm always like, I couldn't care less, literally couldn't care less where people have come from, what sex they are, what religion they are. Like, and I really, this is one of the things that frustrates me about the world is like all of these labels, and it's like,
Hmm.
we don't get on with these. It's just like like we're all the same, and it's like, and religion, for example. So because I'm Portuguese, um, so I grew up Catholic, right? But
Hmm.
then because I moved to England when I was 11, it's funny because my mum was the rebel in Portugal, like she got a tattoo, she dyed her hair, she's like, I'm moving to England. She was a rebel. Actually, I've just realized that. That's where I get it from. But she did it on purpose. She was one of those people that was like, I'm so cool, look at me. She's still a bit like that now. Anyway, so because she moved here, then so I did like my first communion, but then as soon as we moved here, it was kind of like, we're free. So I was like,
Hmm.
sweet, I don't have to pray however many times a day. Great. But what I've discovered actually, so then I grew up and I was like, religion, whatever, right?
Mm-mm.
Whatever, what a load of crap, right? There
Mm-mm.
isn't just like one God, we shouldn't, all of these things. But what I've actually discovered, like the deeper that you go, like you said, everything's connected. A lot of concepts in religion are the same as spirituality, right? So it's like the God, it's like the universe, and the more books that I read, the more that people always say this, like whatever you want to call it, right?
Yes.
It's kind of like there's a higher power of some sort, it's basically like we're not alone. A lot of, like, for example, the whole praying thing,
Yeah.
that we talk about, affirmations, manifesting, and all that. It's essentially the same thing,
Same
right?
thing.
Yeah, and
It's the
I
same
heard
thing.
exactly, and I heard that Jim Carrey say this the other day, because he talks a lot about manifesting, and like this interview that he did, and he was saying that he used to like visualize getting famous, and like every night. And then it was like, oh, why did you start doing this? And he said he spoke to, like, I think it was I don't remember, like a nun or something. Um, I don't know if he was going like to Sunday school or whatever. But anyway, um, he basically said that the advice she told him was that she was like, what I do is, I pray to God and then I say, I want X, Y, and Z, and I will do this in return. And then he said that he went home and he was like, hey God, you know I want a bike, I will do X, Y, and Z. And then he said that 2 weeks later, he got home and there was a bike there for him. And then he was like, okay, this works, right? And then the whole thing was his friend had entered him and himself like in a raffle, and then so he won this bike. But it just goes to show that it's the same thing, right? And I remember being a child when I realized this, I was like, I was always manifesting, because I used to have conversations all the time. Like, you know, when you're a kid and you're like, okay, if you bring me this toy, I promise that I will not answer back to my mum, and I and I will clean my room every day, and I'll feed all the whatever it is, right? And then it's like, and then the thing happens, you know. And what I realized was like, well, actually, as a child, you're a bit of a liar. Because when you got the thing, you'd be like, okay, I'll do it for like 1 week. And then I'd forget because I'd have the thing. But it's the same thing. Or like when you go to confession, right? It's like what we do now, where you kind of sit and you reflect, and then you're like, I forgive myself, right? It's all the same. The difference is that like it's like with a lot of religions, there's this one thing that you have to listen to when everybody else is wrong. It's
Yeah.
that divide, which you don't have in spirituality. That it's kind of like, no, we're all the same and everyone's the same because we are all the same and we all
Yes.
accept each other. So that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. I think what you're doing is great. But it's just, you know, people are very stuck in their ways. And you know that we're saying people didn't call you back and stuff. It's just like, you know, it's just something that when people they believe in something and they know something, and then it's like it's very difficult to, I guess, to change their mind. But you've got to start somewhere, isn't it?
Yes. Yes. And it's for me, it's really about like understanding where that anger was coming from, because
Yeah,
it's hard to feel alone in your life every
yeah,
day, you know, because you got people like that coming
mm,
into your life. And as I guess I'm growing up, I'm like, all right, so those people are coming into my life, and
yeah,
I like to believe that there's a reason why, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
there's a reason why. And if I'm just like cutting the shit and
Mm-hmm,
stop being angry all the time, what's there? What is there? You know, what is there
mm-hmm.
without the anger and the resignment, you know? Because I used to be like, fuck it, you know, everybody, like, fuck everybody. Like, I used to
Yes.
say that because it was just like, you guys don't fucking get it. And it
Yeah,
wasn't like, I get it and you don't get it, but it was like, why what I'm talking about, you're gonna slam a door to my face. Like,
yeah,
why? I'm not doing that to you guys. Like, what's going
yeah.
on, you know? And so I felt like a victim, right? You know, like
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this was happening to me. And it was like, shit, like I better be just by myself. And then I started to travel and to move from places to places, because I was like, you know, why would I stay in a place where people don't want me? You know,
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking. And so I just tried to stay open
Mm-hmm.
without people like having this effect on myself where I feel less than. Yeah, it's tricky. I'm still learning that, you know, how to go outside, enjoy
Mm-hmm.
ourselves, and still be who we are.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's the whole, if you listen to any of these people, like, you know, it's like that's the whole point of, you know, a spiritual awakening, is that you know, at some point you are able, you know, you are able to listen to the news without it affecting you. You are able to get on a crowded plane without it, like you're able to do everything,
Yes.
right? But then the thing that I always think is that like, well, these people don't have to experience that anymore. So, you know, there's something in there. It's like people who give these talks and who write these books, it's like they don't have to experience these things anymore, or these
Mm,
triggers or whatever, you know. Obviously stuff still happens, but like the like you're saying, the real world, you know, like it's
yeah.
like they don't have to live, you know, they make their own surroundings at this point, you know. They are only surrounded
Hmm.
by certain people. So like it's what I was saying to you before, that it's kind of like this in between place, right?
Yes.
Where it's like, which I feel like a lot of people don't talk about, right? It's like you always talk
Yes.
about spirituality, or then it's like the 3D and the 5D, the 3D and the 5D, and it's like, well, what's in between? Can we talk about the in between, or do we just go to the 5D? It's just like, oh, there I am, you know, I'm just flying, I'm a starseed, great, perfect. It's like can we talk about how we get there, because I
Yes.
never hear this. I never hear anybody talking about this, or it's like
Yes.
no one ever interviews people where they're in the middle stage, because it's like, well, they don't have advice to give, right? It's like, I don't know. But then
Yeah.
it's like you need to be, again, like in the 5D, and it's like I understand everything now and everything's great, um it's people like that maybe would go to that village, and well, I don't see it, like it wouldn't happen because they don't need to go to the village. So
Yeah, I don't think it's like, I don't think it's necessarily on the outside. Like, we've been trying to create something like that, like where people are living together, and like they're like, we're raising our kids the same way,
yeah,
and like freedom and all of that. But people are still people, and even though we're gonna go to
yeah,
that 5D, like, I'm sorry, but I'm not one to think that we should kill the ego, because if we kill the ego,
yeah,
we're gonna die. And so if we don't kill that ego, we're still gonna be having a body, right? And that 3D is having a body also, it's
yeah,
not only um being stuck in a mindset, it's also like tangible, like you got
yeah,
like bones,
yeah,
and like fat, and like,
yeah,
stuff, organs.
yeah. I I sort of like I had this again, like it's again between the two, but it's kind of like I always think this, that it's like the ego. The ego is good for some things, right? Like,
Yes.
because what tends to happen, I don't know if you heard about this as well, but it's like spiritual bypassing, where
Yes.
people just use spirituality a lot as an excuse to actually avoid speaking about things, right? And I've seen this with people, right? And
Yeah.
again with dating, like there's there's somebody that comes to mind that, like, this person is so far away that it's like, nothing matters, we're all whatever, and it's like he lives in this like alternative reality, that it's like not willing to talk about anything that happens in the real world. And it's like, we are still human, and it's like it's about marrying the two together.
Yes.
And I really believe that it's like you don't have to get rid of your ego, because the ego is good for some things. It's like shadow work. It's like shadow work's not a bad thing. Even fear, it's like it's there for a reason. It's trying to protect you, right? You shouldn't look at it as like, this is a bad feeling. It's like, no, no, look at it, right? And be like, what is it trying to tell me? Why are you scared, right? And it's about speaking to your body and being like, this is okay, this is fine, thank you, you
Yeah.
know. But again, it's like that fighting thing. So it's like, again, it's all about, this is, I think, maybe what's happening, but it's all about just marrying the two things together, and just sort of being aware of things that are happening, and this reality that we have or whatever, but not
Hmm.
so far over, the line that you can't, because I know people like that, like I said, that you can't actually communicate with them anymore, right? From both ends, because there are people who are just like, I can't communicate with you because, you know, it's bullshit, right? That it's like, no, you go to work and you work hard and that's it. What are you talking about? And then there's other people who are just so far the other side that they can't talk about it because it's like this, this my energy, my energy. No, thank you. So it's like I think I like having conversations like this, and I love it when people are kind of like, you're being like this, because I'm like, oh great, let me just look at why I'm being like this.
Yes.
What are the triggers, right?
Yes.
Um and
Because
and
yeah, it's all about like observing those things, and like not killing the ego doesn't mean that you listen to it all the time and you let
yeah,
it drive your whole life.
yeah,
But like, it's it's like you said, it's like having both, and understanding that they're not enemies to each
yeah,
other, but they can be ally. It's like in neuroscience, where
mm-hmm,
like it's not the right brain and the left brain, they're like separated. When
yeah,
they're communicating with each other, that's where you are more healthy, more
mm-hmm,
balanced, and it's all about that. Even like in the chakra system, because I studied Ayurveda, and we talked
yeah,
about like the chakra systems a lot, and so from up the heart, it's like the middle part, and then up here it's like the masculine part, where like it's more like your thinking, your
mm-hmm,
action, and down it's like your body, your emotion, your identity, and it's like more the feminine side. And to be balanced, it's not to be just in one. It's to
Yeah.
be able to bring that feminine energy to the heart and that masculine energy to the heart, and then move forward with that,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
It's not separated. And when you understand that, that's how, for me, like, even though sometimes I feel like it's hard to still be in contact with a part of me that feels rejected when people are not
Yeah.
aligned with what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's like coming back to that place that it's understanding that those, when it's not balanced, it's very hard to even understand someone, because when you're too much in your fear and
Mm-hmm.
this is driving the show, like the minute you're in fear, you're gonna fly or fight,
Yeah.
right? And so yeah, so it's like understanding that that's where they're at right now,
Mm-hmm.
and understanding that I don't have any control over that, but I do have control over what's going on here.
Yeah.
And how am I like not gonna victimize myself about that, because this is not like, this has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
So how can I bring myself forward? And that's what I'm teaching my kids right now. It's not because of you, like
Yeah.
they're going through their shit, and it's hard, it's not easy for no one, like it's like
Mm-hmm.
no one's got like, oh, this is so quick and easy, you know, no. And those struggles are like, they might come back, you know, but the more they're coming back, the more tool we have and the
Yeah.
more equipped we are. And so we can, it's like, from what I'm observing right now, it's not like the struggle is not coming back. It's more of the struggle is coming back, and I can deal with it.
Yeah.
I don't have to fight. I don't
Mm-hmm.
have to be angry, and I don't have to suppress.
Yeah.
Like, I can just be there and observe it and understand it, like it was, like if it was my kid.
Yeah, exactly. It's about looking at everyone with that compassion in yourself. And I think a reason for all the anger, because you just mentioned it there, is definitely taking everything personally. And
Mm-hmm.
and now, because I'm the same now, I realize, because it's like you've got to understand that it's like these people, that says a lot about them, right? But it's not even in a bad way. It's not like, oh, they don't understand and they're just stuck in their own ways. It's like the only reason people do things like that is because of fear,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because people fear what they don't understand, right? And that's all
Yes.
that it is. People, like religion, it's like, if that's all you ever know, then somebody come all, and because of what you've had as well. So it's like, that's why I was saying it was great what you were doing, because then sometimes it just takes someone to explain it in a certain way, and then it's like, this is not evil, right? We're not against you or whatever, but it's like the way that someone reacts says a lot about them and says a lot about their insecurities and what they're going through. And like you said, it's like stuff still hurts, of course it does, like all the time, it hurts even more, like now, that I'm a human. um but then it's about going, okay, and it's about feeling those emotions, like you said. It's about being like,
Yes.
I feel rejected, and it's not embarrassing. It's like, I'm human, and this is how I feel, and I'm going to feel it. And then, but then being like, okay, do you know what, this is something that they clearly need to deal with, and it's not on me. I'm not doing anything wrong. And
Yeah.
it can be difficult to do that at first, but then it's like, I think, again, like a lot of our anger, it's just like trying to fix everything and everyone and help everything and everyone, and then it's just like, you can't help people who don't want to be helped. People have to be ready, people have to go through their own journey. And that was one of the biggest things for me, that it was like, it doesn't matter how much I scream at somebody telling them what they need to do, because
Mm-hmm.
they're going to do it 6 months later,
Yeah.
and then you're going to be like, didn't I say this 6 months ago? And they're going to be like, I don't know. But then instead of looking at it like, oh my God, I said this 6 months ago, it's being like, I think what I've said has helped, And it's the same
Yeah.
with this situation, that it's like, maybe, what I've said, they'll be thinking about this, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that they've just gone, no, absolutely not. But maybe this has sparked a conversation, like even if it's in their head, because like I said, because
Yeah.
they're probably in fear, because it's like the unknown and it's what they've been
Yeah.
taught. So it's
Yeah.
just about again, like sometimes you just need to let things settle and being like, okay, you know what, when you're ready, I'll be here. But even saying that, just being like, and just like, and this is how you made me feel, again, depending on how close you are with people, but like, this is how you made me feel, and that's fine. When you're ready, I'm here to talk, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Is to leave that door open.
Yeah,
Like that's my biggest learning at the
yeah,
moment, and to be able to do that, to be able to say, I know this is hard for you to
yeah,
understand, and my door is still open whenever you want to talk, come and knock at my door. You know?
yeah,
And it's if they come back, fine, and if they don't come back, fine. It's
exactly.
that moment where you realize that it's not about you, and the minute you take um responsibility for what you're feeling,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
instead of like just like embodying that and like from a victim state of mind, and just like moving forward with that, like let's say you feel rejected and then you move forward and saying, you reject me,
Yeah,
you're not cool, you're rejecting me, but this is not true. They're not rejecting you. That's not real. That's the feeling you're encountering at the moment, and you got
yeah,
to take ownership of that. And for me, like emotions are like waves, and never in nature you're gonna see waves that gonna stay there. Like
yeah,
it's always
yeah,
gonna come back into the sea. It's a movement, and it's
yeah,
never gonna just stay up here. You've never seen that in nature where a wave is like right here and it stays there. Like it's always gonna retract, right? And
yeah,
emotions are exactly like that. And so to be able to stay where it's like at its peak,
yeah,
knowing that it's gonna retract.
yeah. And they're always going to be different as well. Like no wave is the
Yes,
same, so they're always going to
yes,
be different. Um,
yes,
yeah, no, I completely agree with that, and I think, yeah, I think, yeah, it's just it's all a learning curve, isn't it? And
it is. Yes,
it's yeah, people are just going to do things when they're ready,
yeah,
and it's like it's hard, but it's like it's not our job to fix everything, and it's like,
yeah.
it's just, I don't know, it's,
It's like
yeah,
the curse of like knowing what could
yeah, mm,
what could be good instead of what should be good.
yeah,
what could be good for them, like it's a possibility that could be good for you, because from like an outside perspective of yourself, you're doing this and this, and I don't think it's helping you. So
yeah,
that's to wait for that person to come to you because you're doing it. Like that's
yeah,
what I have learned from like the pandemic. I was like, fuck off
yeah,
everything. I'm just gonna do my thing,
yeah,
and this is what I like. It doesn't matter. Other doesn't matter right now. Like I'm just gonna do my thing.
just gonna
I'm
do a
gonna
thing.
deal my with my stuff, and the more I'm doing that, the more people are like knocking at my door saying like, hey, not my literal door but my virtual door. But like saying, hey, what's up, you want to help me with that, or oh, I would like your feedback on this, or
Yeah,
like it's like the more I'm doing it, the more people
the
are.
more, yeah. There's this YouTuber that I really like. She does tarot. I think she's got a podcast as well. I don't remember what it's called, but her thing, she always says this. It's like when you step into your authenticity, you help people to step into theirs. It's something like that, but
Yeah,
it's better said. um, but um, but I think, yeah, I really love that because it's so true. I think I kind of this was something that I had to do as well, which is about just using your own voice, doing your own thing. And that's like when people, like this, for example, you're doing something that you love. You're not doing it for anybody else. You're doing
no.
it for you. And then it's like, but it's obviously, again, you want to tell stories, but it's like you want to do this because you're passionate about this, and
Yes,
and people are like, I want to be a part of this thing because it's cool, um and and the thing that I was going to say before, I kept forgetting, when a thought goes and comes and you're like, I got it. um but it was about being rejected, and it was like, you can only be rejected if you reject yourself. And what that means is that, like what you were saying, that it's like, you're going to do your thing, but it's like, I'm not doing anything wrong, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I still stand for who I am and what I am and what I do. And it's like, you know, you can just do your own thing, because again, and this has happened to me again, I've discovered pretty much everything through relationships, but it's like I would feel rejected because I would reject myself first, and then I'd be like, you rejected me, you're a dick, why are you treating me like this? And it's like, no, why are you treating yourself like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same with everything. It's like there's a saying that it's like, um it's like when people insult you, it's like they only insult you if you take the insult, right? It's like, otherwise you can go, I don't want it. I had a comedian about say something really funny, but it was like, just
Yes.
giving it back to them. It's like, I don't want that, it's not mine,
Yeah.
take it back. I don't want
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And when you're taking it without even knowing,
Yeah,
like that's the process right there of like owning what's for you in that
yeah,
situation, because to be able to just like make a stop to that situation and understand just by observing and like taking ownership of like, oh, I feel rejected, so there's something for me right there, like
yeah,
it's not them that are rejecting me, but it's me feeling rejected in that moment. And
yeah,
to feel that feeling, and then after you're through with feeling it, then you can understand it. But it's
yeah,
like letting that wave go so that you can see what's underneath,
yeah, yeah.
so
And do you know what the funny thing is as well? It's like when these things happen, right? I always say this, like, if you actually went to this person and you were like, I feel rejected by this, they would be shocked, you know? And they
yeah.
they wouldn't they wouldn't have meant to make you feel that. Do you know what I mean? So it's
Yes.
always like when we experience this thing, sometimes it's just like, this is how the situation has made me feel. People are always like, oh,
Really?
share. Yeah,
Really?
I
Oh my
didn't.
god.
Yeah, I always say this. It's like, it's not like anybody, or at least I hope nobody wakes up in the day and goes, I'm gonna make everyone feel like shit today. That's just what I'm gonna
Yes.
do.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, I always say the same thing. I don't feel like anyone has bad intention,
yeah,
but sometimes we do stuff from fear, and then it
yeah,
turns out. But even when you understand what fear is, it's just because you want to be safe,
yeah.
right?
It's
So we
it's a
can,
natural human response. Yeah,
yeah, so we can recognize that and have empathy for that part of themselves, of like, or even of ourselves,
yeah,
acting from that space of fear because we want to be safe, because this is this is what it is, like since forever.
yeah,
Like no one was like, "Oh, yeah, there's a dinosaur right there. All right, let's just like chill, No, you're in fear. You got like this. I don't even know if humans were there when dinosaurs were there, but
yeah.
whatever, like
It's
whatever.
natural.
What kind
Yeah,
of animals were there, at the beginning while we were here at the beginning? Like no one was like, "Oh, let's chill and like eat berries while this freaking huge animal is right
yeah.
there," Fear is there for
A reason.
something,
Yeah,
but right now, like our fear is showing up a different way because there's no big animals anymore. We live in cities, like most of us, like it's not like you're in danger all the
yeah.
time.
Yeah, exactly. But it's the same thing. I always talk about this. I've made a video one time about saying for humans to stay in their lane. Because I think I made a couple of videos actually, but it's about like humans, I think, because we're like so evolved and blah blah blah. It's, we always think like we're so smart and we're just like ahead of everything. And it's like a lot of our responses, a lot of the way that we act is like animalistic. It's like it's tribal, like it's do you know what I mean? It's like it's just because we can speak now that we kind of, but it's like all these emotions that we have, and like I don't know, like even jealousy, anger, whatever, it's all like if we're in the jungle, right? Like and we actually did what we wanted, like our instinct and stuff, right? It's like it would, like if we just acted how we want to act, it would just be like we're in the jungle, right? It's like,
Yes.
but because we're like, no, we're humans, we must behave properly, we must not you know, slap that person, we must not bite anyone, you know, but it's like we just still want to do the same stuff all the time. Do you know what I mean? We still have the same instincts, but it's like, no, we're humans, we'll talk about it, but then we don't talk about it. So it's just like, again, it's just, but it's again, it's we do the same thing that other animals do, we're just slightly more intelligent. I always say
Yes,
this.
yes, yes. And I think that by putting that into awareness,
Yeah,
that's where the shift can actually happen,
yeah,
by putting that in awareness, like knowing that parts of us are still like animals,
yeah,
and parts of us wants to evolve and
yeah,
do something different than
yeah.
what we used to do,
Mm-hmm.
and we're at that moment where it's weird, like you said, we're come yeah, it's like we're come
What's
in
happening? What's
between.
gonna happen?
Yeah, so it's like we've seen those old pattern, and we're still discovering those new pattern, and so it's
Yeah,
like we're in between those things, and it's just one reason to have more empathy for what we're going through right now, because like when I it's like always like referring to a kids, like
yeah.
if you see your kids trying to walk, you're not gonna be like, fuck off, you just missed, like step up, like you're not gonna be like that. You're gonna be,
Yeah,
oh, good job, good job,
yeah,
and let's try again, like when you're ready,
yeah,
and so to use that kind of empathy and caring for ourselves, it's
yeah,
what's gonna like unravel so many other like
yeah.
possibilities.
Mm-hmm. I always say this because I found that I was super encouraging with other people, but then not with myself. And literally
Mm,
just doing this is just doing this, like whenever you like do something wrong, to just be like, no, good job, So like I've retrained my brain to now, instead of being like, well, that was terrible. It's like, well, no, actually retrain your brain, to the good thing, to the positive thing. It's like you said, you take one step and then you fall. You don't look at the fall, you look at the one step, right? And it's the same
yes,
thing. It's like again made another video about this. It was like, stop looking at everything you didn't do in a day and start looking at everything that you did do, right? And then
yeah,
that just completely shifts your mindset as well. You know what I mean?
yes, it's like that. You gotta be able to reflect on what are the steps you've done so that you
Mm-hmm.
can understand how fast you're going.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so that and it's just like it's encouraging to just like
Mm-hmm.
see, oh yeah, I remember I was there, like you're always learning, and to be able to reflect on that, it's just a powerful tool to be able to
Mm-hmm.
just move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Reflecting is, yeah, something that we all need to do a lot more, I think.
Yeah, I
Because
think so.
our culture is very like go, 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 go. And it's like, take the time, like the masculine energy that we used to have a lot of.
Yeah.
It's like, let's balance it out. Let's sit down and be like, okay. I actually scheduled that in a few months ago, that it was like Sundays were for reflecting.
Yes. Yes. Yes, I understand that. I have my Sundays that is free too, because I'm like, if I don't do that, like I'm just gonna keep on
Just
pushing, keep
get
on
busy,
doing.
get busy. Yeah,
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 yes, that's a pattern.
yeah, exactly. Very similar.
Yeah, very much so. It's so crazy. It's just so crazy that we've met. I'm just like, oh my God. It's just like to meet someone that understands me in those level, and hopefully like other people that are watching that are gonna be like, yes, I'm like that too. And like, yes, let's start this conversation of like we're like that thing where we're not in that corporate world, and we're not like doing the same thing that everyone, we know the
Yeah.
culture, but we're still like there's still like struggle there, and let's talk about those, because it's not, yeah, I don't even know, it's like it's not because you're not in that system that shit doesn't happen.
Well, exactly. I think that's what I realized, that it was like my biggest thing in life is freedom, my
Yeah,
biggest value. Like I realized recently that it was like everything that I did was just because it's everything just stemmed down to freedom for me. I've always been someone who's been like, whatever. Like I've always been someone who's made my decisions on like a whim. I'm just like, fuck it.
yeah.
What's if it will work itself out. And now I've gotten to this stage that I'm like, the advice I used to give people was be like, fuck it. Now the advice that I give people is like, okay, I'm not saying that my way is better because, the other side, like you were saying, is not good either, because I've done this my whole life, like I said, and it's like I've ended up in a position I didn't want to end up in, right?
Yes.
And it's only now that I'm finding my passion, right? So it's like I'm not like, instead of being like, quit your job, travel the world, screw it, whatever, what's gonna happen? I don't say that anymore, because I'm like, it's good that you're thinking about things, okay? But
Yeah.
maybe just don't get so complacent, right? But it's completely different because, I counted how many jobs I've had throughout my life the other day. And, I've had 22 jobs. And I think that's a bit ridiculous. I think that's a bit much, to be honest. I don't know why. But that's just to show you the extent of my freedom, because literally, here's a great example, actually. As soon as I don't like something, I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Fuck you. Who are you? I'm out.
Yeah.
And because I've always been like, I don't need to stay in a job 10 years and grow. Fuck you. I don't like this. I don't like that I only get 20 minutes break. I'm out. But then, like I said, it's getting to a stage where you go, were these smart decisions? And again, it's about balancing the two. It's about being courageous and brave and,
Mm-hmm.
going against the grain a little bit, but also maybe every once in a while, just think about how you're going to pay for food. Just sometimes, just throw it in there, just be like, just, so that's the thing. Again, it's like, this way isn't better either. And it's now I
Yeah.
finally have come to a middle ground when I'm like, okay, you don't need to quit your job every month, and you don't need to move every month. Stability is okay. Money is good. Okay. Money is not bad. And again, I've not counted how many times I've moved. It's probably a similar amount, but it's
Yeah.
like, it's okay. But and this is the thing we talked about last time. It's like, it's okay to have stability, to stay in a job, to like, you don't have to be against everything all the time, because
Mm-hmm.
but it's what we said last time. It's like, it's detrimental to yourself when you're a
Yes.
rebel without a cause. It's like nobody else is suffering, right? It's like you're suffering.
Mm.
Because when you walk out of a job, it's like, whatever, everyone's replaceable. When you move 75 times, whatever, everyone's replaceable. It's like you're creating this life for yourself, right?
Yeah.
And you're only hurting yourself for no good reason, right?
Yes.
Use your energy for things like this, for bringing light to the world in another way, instead of banging your head against the wall just for banging your head against the wall, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with that. And I've been through that as well. Of course. I had
Yeah.
like such a past with jobs and moving to places. Like this is a running gag. This is a reputation I have built for myself that no one can be attached to me because I'm gonna
You'll
leave,
just move. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no one trusts me. No one like will be like, "Oh yeah, she's there. Oh, that looks amazing. Let's move there together and create something." Like no one in their right state of mind would do that. And yeah, and it's like were their bad decision? I think they were. It's like for me, it's like I've been fooling myself in the name of freedom because
Yes.
I love freedom so much, and I don't want to be attached in like a job that I don't like or that doesn't resonate with me. But it's like I don't want to stay in a place where that don't resonate with me, and I do believe in freedom and I do want to have the choice always to
Mm-hmm.
move. But if it's because I going through like a struggle of some kind and I don't want to face it and I
Mm-hmm.
put a label of freedom on it, I'm
Yeah,
fooling myself.
exactly.
So so for now, like what I'm gonna do is to make sure that I don't have any struggle before I move.
Yeah.
or before, like if I want to stop doing podcasts because it's too hard, like it's not right, like it's
It's an
not.
actual reason. Yeah.
Yes, so because I want to quit doing podcasts because I lost my freedom and I cannot be with my kids anymore, that kind of shit, and then, all right, so but it's not true. Like, I'm not losing my freedom. I have all the freedom in the world right now, and
Yeah.
what I'm choosing to do with that freedom is to do that podcast,
Yeah.
and I chose to live here even though, like, people are not really deeply connected to what I'm
Yeah.
doing. This is still something I chose to.
Hmm.
And if there's a struggle, which there is, it's not the reason why I should move,
Yeah.
because it's not true that if I put a label of freedom on that, and I'm going to be satisfied with that anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I cannot be
Yeah.
satisfied with that. I won't it won't work.
Yeah. But yeah,
So
but
yeah.
it's realizing that it was the same for me, that it's realizing that um it's admitting that actually we're just running away from a lot of things as well. And like you said, in the name of freedom, everything's in the name of freedom. And then it's like, because I've experienced the same thing, that it's like, I'm not going to move again, right? Like, I'm going to move because I want to move. I'm not because this is what I've always done. If there's a problem, bye.
Yeah.
Relationships, jobs, whatever it was, I'm
Yeah.
goodbye, not, and then it's like, through all of this, and I'm like, let me just see what happens. This is the thing as well about life, is that start treating everything like an experiment, right? So I was like, let me just see what happens if I don't move away from this house, because the light stopped working. Like, let me just see what happens, right? If I just try to live like the other humans that I know, let me just see, you know, what happens. And, nothing happened, it's fine. And then it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I've just been doing this. And then that's when I realized, I was like, oh, I see, I've just been fighting for no reason. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That was exhausting.
Yes. Yeah, that's the nervous system right there is like working so freaking hard to
All the
keep you
time.
safe,
All
and
the
when it's
time.
gonna come and crashing down in flame, like, get ready.
Yeah. It's
Because
yeah.
yeah, your nervous system is like so vital, so crucial for you. And so yeah, I relate to that. I've been doing that my whole life, like doing,
Yeah.
just moving because of freedom, but realizing that it was a nervous system response of flight.
It's a pattern,
You're
yeah.
even fight or flight, and the minute it gets rough, I will flight. I
Yeah,
will
so it's the
fly.
two things that we knew. It's like fight or flight, fight. It's the only two responses that we knew. We'd be like, if we're not fighting, then we're flying.
Yes, exactly,
That's it.
exactly,
I don't know how to do
exactly.
anything else. So yeah, I'm just gonna go.
Mm,
Um but yeah, it's crazy. It's just it's
it
this
is.
talking about this is like, it's because, like I said, it's growing up seeing everybody else on the other side, and then having these realizations that it's like, you've always just done your thing, and then I don't know, I think it's yeah, when you get to a certain age, when you've done it a few times or whatever, and then you kind of you look around, right, and you're like, has this served me, you
Mm-hmm.
know has this gone in my favor, right? Has this
Yeah.
helped me really? And then it's like, no, it hasn't. And then what will happen, and then this is the thing as well, I was going to say about, you're talking about the nervous system. It's like, when you decide, when you're like, okay, we're just going to rest now, it's like, what?
Yeah.
I don't
Oh
know
my
how to
God.
do this.
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't know how to rest. That was a big deal for me too. Like the first
Yeah.
time the whole first year I was meditating every
Yeah.
time I was falling asleep, and I was like, well, this is bullshit. Like I don't really like to sleep in front of all of those people, like you got like the little salva right there, like, like you're snoring or something, and it's like you're disturbing the whole room. And it's like, when are you gonna fucking realize that you're tired, girl?
Oh my God, that's so funny. Yeah, just yeah, that's really funny. Just falling asleep. That's I do comedy as well. Like that's a funny comedy sketch. Just being like, I will
Yeah.
carry on and just being like, every time, just being like, oh, that was a good sleep. And everyone's
Oh
like,
my
what are you
God.
doing? And you're like, hey, I didn't get to rest any other time. All right, let me sleep. Leave me alone. Um,
Oh
Maybe we'll
yeah.
do that next time. We'll do a little sketch of you just sleep. We'll just do a yoga thing, and then it'll just be you in the corner just snoring
Just
away. Like,
sleeping
yeah,
every time
exactly.
I every
That's
time I was
funny.
meditating, man. I was so tired. I was just so tired all the time, you know?
Yeah,
I wasn't stopping for nothing, and even like now, well, it's a whole other story, but like after I had my second child,
yeah,
like I was so tired all the time. She wasn't sleeping. She wasn't sleeping at all. Like she was like up at 7 in the morning and going to bed at 11, like midnight, but she wasn't napping. And
yeah,
so I was never sleeping. And it's been like 6 years of me not sleeping. And I actually have to learn again how to rest. This is so
yeah.
crazy, you know?
That's another thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was the same.
So
Just like just learning,
it's
just giving yourself a day off, just relaxing.
yes,
It's
yes,
crazy.
yeah, accept that. And yeah, it's a whole other story.
Yeah,
But I think we can talk the whole day, but we've
I
been like,
know. This is crazy.
let's do another one.
Yeah, we can just do another one. Yeah, that's for sure. But otherwise, yeah, we'll be here for like 7 hours.
Straight, the longest podcast ever.
Ever. Yeah, well, we'd be on the news.
All right, so how about I always like to close those podcasts with an advice. You know,
Right.
what advice would you give? I don't know how many people are there like us. Like I'm so curious. Like I always felt
Yeah,
like I was alone in
me
my
too.
my so I don't know if people out there are that are listening to this are
Mm-hmm.
relating to
Mm-hmm.
that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know how to like I always close with an advice. Like so what advice would you give to someone that is rebelling for no cause? Yeah, that would be a good
I
way to
think I think the advice that I give, like pretty much at the minute to everybody, is to get to the root. We touched on this, but to get to the root of why you're rebelling,
mm,
to get to the root of yeah, what that actually is, or like who you're angry at, even, um, because for me it was like, oh, I'm angry at the world. And then it was like, let's back up here, right? You
mm-mm,
know, and being angry and actually when you're rebelling against anything you're rebelling against yourself. When you're angry about anything you're angry at yourself. So again, it's about peeling off the layers, right? Just taking
mm,
off the mask and actually and this is tricky advice to give because it's always like someone asked me about this in one of my YouTube videos the other day about because I said the same thing about getting to the root of the problem. And the way that this happens is a lot of the times when we're doing like all this inner work, you know, this used to frustrate me a lot, but it's not like stuff just happens, right? It's not like, oh, great, I've got it. Like most of the time for me, I'll set the intention, right? I'll sit with it and I'll be like, why? Okay. I'll write about it. I'll scream about it. I'll cry about it. I'll do whatever about it. And
mm,
then at some point, it'll come to me randomly when I'm cooking, when I'm watching something, when I'm going for a walk. Like,
mm-mm,
so it's about getting to the root of a problem of the problem of what you're angry at, why you're angry at yourself as well. But to not fixate on it because it will come. This is the hardest part, I think, because again, if the people that are watching are anything like me, I'm still quite impatient. And when I want things, I want
mm-hmm.
things now. And this is something that I'm teaching myself, is to kind of be like, everything happens at the right time. And like when you're supposed to get that message, you will, it will come. But it's just you do have to do the work. And like I said, doing a work is taking off all the masks, is just being like it's you're not just angry, right?
Yeah.
You're probably sad. Again, you fear. There's a bunch of other, because fear is, I mean, anger is just, it's the easiest emotion, right? You know,
Yeah.
it's the same with acting, right? I'll give you acting as an example. It's always easy to be angry. You can always slap someone in the face, easy.
Yeah.
You can always scream at somebody. It's the
Yeah.
crying that's hard, right? It's the crying, it's feeling the emotion that's difficult. So it's the same thing. It's just like, you know, take off the masks, go home, sit with it, and think about it, you know, and speak to people as well. I like to ask people questions, you know, people that know you. It's like, why, what do you feel about this? How do I do this? You know, people that you trust. And
Mm-hmm.
then just believe that you'll figure it out, it'll come to you. And then obviously then there's all the work that you're going to have to do, which is great. That's the advice, is get to the root of the problem, but be patient, you know,
Yeah,
because
I
this is
love
the
it.
advice I have to give myself as well.
Yeah, I love it. I would just add open to open yourself up to
Yeah,
the possibilities of something else, because when
right.
you're stuck in that anger, when you realize that you're rebelling against nothing,
Yeah,
and you're stuck in that anger because it's your default mode, it's very effective to actually stop yourself and
mm-hmm.
open yourself up to something else. Just take off your glasses and put some new ones,
Yeah, look at it
to
differently.
see it, yeah, to see it in another angle. And for me, what happened, what was the best thing was like empathy and compassion, connecting with love. And I know that
Me
for
too.
you, it shows up in relationship, and for me it showed up as being a mother. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter how it shows up,
yeah,
it could show up with you going to the spa, it doesn't
yeah,
matter.
yeah,
It's just a matter of realizing where you got this innate ability to feel love, to connect with love, and to be able to give yourself space to go there
yeah,
and to learn from that space instead of that anger space.
yeah. I
So
think
yeah.
that's really good advice to, yeah, try something else, because I wish somebody would have told me that, you know, when I was angry at the world. I wish somebody would have been like, you know, why don't you try and look at it this way, you know? Like you
Yeah.
said, it's like put on some different glasses, right? Instead of just defaulting to anger. But really funny to put both of our advices together. I said, take off your mask. You
Yes.
said, put on your glasses. So take off your mask, put on different glasses, and you're sorted. That's the
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah, it's like the mask is also the glasses, because when you're
I
stuck
know.
in those, yeah, and you take those off, and you can put some new ones
Yeah,
that are more aligned with who you are.
yeah.
It's you're up to success. You're setting
Mm-hmm.
yourself up for success instead of
Yeah,
for failure by staying in that anger.
absolutely. I can't wait to hear like what people say about this, so we can
Yeah, me
find more
too.
people like this, because I was like, you're not an alien, you're not alone. It's okay.
So if it's resonating with you guys, like, please let us know. Don't let
Yeah.
us be alone. We're so far
Yeah.
away from each other.
Yeah.
Let's bring more people into that conversation.
Woo! Yes, please.
All right, thank you so much for being here, and I'm
Thank
sure
you.
it's not the last one. It's not the last
Yeah.
one.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Amazing.